And so we settle in. You can feel your body beginning to go heavy in the most pleasant way. In our time together tonight, there is nothing to examine, nothing to understand, under a story of a life lived thousands of years ago, under a sun that was both the same and entirely different. A story that begins on the banks of a river that gave birth to a civilization, the great river Nile. Before we drift too far, if you feel a connection to this place, you're welcome to leave a quiet like or subscribe. Think of it not as a task, but as leaving a soft footprint in the sand before you continue your journey inward. And if you feel so inclined, you can leave a comment with your city and the time on your part of the earth, a quiet signal to all the other souls listening in the dark. And now, with the lights turned down low, and your body feeling heavy and warm, let's simply close our eyes and arrive at the beginning of our journey. The air is warm against your skin, thick with the day's fading heat and the eternal smell of river water and wet earth. You stand on a packed rooftop, leaning against a low clay wall that is still radiating the memory of the afternoon sun. Below you, the city of Thebes is slowly changing its colors. The brilliant, bleached white of limestone walls and the dusty tan of countless homes are now painted in deepening shades of ochre, rose, and violet as the sun god, Ra, begins his journey into the underworld. You watch his great barge of light sink behind the western cliffs, the very same cliffs that hide the tombs of pharaohs and queens. From here, they look like a set of sharp, sleeping teeth against the bruised purple sky. The sounds of the day are beginning to soften. The sharp cries of merchants in the marketplace have dwindled to a murmur. The rhythmic hammering from the artisan's quarter has ceased. The distant, rhythmic chant of farmers lifting water from the canals has fallen silent. A new symphony is rising to take its place, the gentle lapping of the Nile against the reeds, the first tentative chirp of a night insect, the lowing of a cow being settled in a nearby courtyard. Down in the narrow street below, a torch is lit, its flame a single, dancing teardrop of orange in the growing blue twilight. It casts long, flickering shadows that make the familiar world seem strange and full of secrets. This is your time. The daytime belongs to others, to the scribes with their Platonician scrolls, to the priests with their solemn rituals, to the women grinding grain and baking bread under the harsh glare of the sun. But the night belongs to you. It is when the air cools and the stars emerge, sharp and brilliant in a sky unpolluted by any future light. These are the same stars that the gods navigate, the same stars your ancestors looked upon. You are a part of this city, yet you exist in its quiet margins. You see its public face during the day, but you know its private heart after dark. Historians in a far-off future will debate just how many souls called this sprawling city home, but to you, it feels like the entire world, a universe of clay and water, of gods and mortals, of wealth and desperate poverty, all breathing together in the gathering dark. You are not a queen in a palace, nor a farmer's wife in a reed hut. Your life is carved out of the spaces in between, a life that depends entirely on the whims of others, on a fragile beauty, and on a deep, unspoken knowledge that your body is both a temple and a tool. A cool breeze finally drifts in from the river, carrying with it the faint scent of lotus blossoms, closing their petals for the night. You close your eyes, just for a moment, and breathe it in. It's a scent of temporary peace. Across the river, on the west bank, the land of the dead is silent and waiting. But here, on the east bank, the land of the living is just beginning to stir with a different kind of life. Music, a soft thrumming of a harp and the gentle tap of a drum, begins to drift up from a wealthy villa not far from here. Laughter follows, loud and burdened. That is the world you will soon enter. But for now, in this brief, quiet moment between the sun and the moon, you are simply yourself, a silhouette against the last glimmer of light on the Nile's dark water. The first star has appeared. Your night is about to begin. You turn from the cooling wall and step back from the rooftop's edge, your bare feet silent on the clay. The entrance to your small living space is just a dark rectangle behind a heavy linen curtain. You push it aside and the air inside is still and close, holding the last of the day's warmth. It is a simple room, with walls whitewashed to catch every last bit of light. A reed mat lies rolled in one corner, your bed. In another sits a sturdy wooden chest holding your few possessions. A single clay lamp is lit, its small, steady flame casting a soft, golden glow and making the shadows in the corners seem deep and mysterious. This is your sanctuary, your preparation chamber. You kneel before the chest and lift its lid. Inside, nestled amongst folded linens, are the tools of a potter or a weaver, but of an artist whose canvas is herself. You lift out a small, flat stone pallet, no bigger than your hand, with a shallow circular depression worn into it. Beside it, you place a smooth, grinding stone and a small pot of dark powder. This is coal. To some, it is just a cosmetic, a way to make the eyes seem larger and more alluring, but you know it is more than that. It is a shield. The men who make it by grinding galena or soot believe it wards off the evil eye, and that it protects the wearer from the sun's harsh glare and the persistent flies that carry disease. Scholars thousands of years from now will argue whether its primary purpose was beauty, magic, or medicine, debating the antibacterial properties of its lead content. To you, the answer is simple: it is your mask. You pour a tiny amount of the dark powder onto the pallet and add a single drop of oil from a small clay flask. With the grinding stone, you work the powder and oil into a smooth, dark paste. The sound is a gentle, rhythmic scrape, a whisper in the quiet room. Then you take up the applicator, a thin, smooth stick of wood or ivory. Dipping it into the paste, you bring it to your eye. You lean close to a piece of highly polished bronze that serves as your mirror. The reflection it gives back is dim and warm, like looking at your soul in a pool of honey. With a steady hand, a skill born of 1,000 nights of practice, you draw a thick, dark line around your eye, extending it out towards your temple in the classic, almond shape that you see painted on the walls of temples and tombs. The coil is cool against your skin. When you draw back, the woman in the bronze is already someone else. She is bolder, more mysterious. You repeat the process on the other eye. Now the transformation has truly begun. You are no longer the quiet observer from the rooftop. You are becoming the woman who walks through the torch-lit halls of the wealthy. Next, you take a small amount of finely ground red ochre, mixing it with a little fat to create a vibrant pigment. You gently rub it onto your lips and a faint touch onto your cheeks, bringing a blush of life to your face that the bronze mirror can just barely capture. It's a color that suggests health, vitality, a vibrancy that is a valuable currency in your world. The final touch is the most peculiar, a secret of the wealthy and those who move in their circles. From your chest, you lift a cone of scented fat, a mixture of animal tallow and fragrant flowers likely low top of your head, or more accurately, on the intricate wig you will wear. Throughout the night, as you move through the warm, crowded rooms of a banquet, this cone will slowly melt, releasing its perfume and casting a subtle, attractive sheen over your hair and shoulders. It is a clever, if somewhat sticky, solution to staying fragrant in the heat. Some historians will later question if these were real or merely an artistic convention, but you know the heavy, greasy reality of it all too well. You place the wig on your head now, a heavy construction of real human hair woven together and set with beeswax, far more elaborate than your own simple hair tucked beneath it. Finally, you look at your reflection again. The woman staring back is a carefully constructed masterpiece. Every line, every color, every scent is intentional. She is an invitation and a warning, a work of art designed for the night. This is not you. But it is the only face they are meant to see. You rise, the heavy wig making you conscious of every movement. Your dress is a simple sheath of fine, almost translucent linen, pleated in a way that catches the light and reveals the shape of your body without showing any skin. It's the closest thing to wearing moonlight. You take a final steadying breath in the quiet of your room, the little flame of the lamp dancing in your dark, painted eyes. Then, you push aside the curtain and step out into the night. Thebes is a city of stark contrasts, and the villas of the powerful are never far from the crowded quarters of the common folk. You walk through the narrow, winding streets, your sandals silent on the packed earth. The air is cooler now, and you can smell the smoke from cooking fires, the scent of baked bread, and the ever-present, earthy perfume of the Nile. You arrive at a high mud brick wall, impressive and imposing. A heavy wooden gate stands open, guarded by a man with a stern face and a spear held loosely in his hand. He recognizes you. He doesn't smile, but he gives a slow, slight nod, a silent acknowledgement that you've been on the world. The chaos of the city streets gives way to the manicured order of a private garden. Palm trees rustle in the gentle breeze, and the air is sweet with the scent of night blooming flowers. The sound of music, a harp, a lute, and a soft, rhythmic drum is louder here, pulling you toward the source of the light and laughter. The villa itself is a sporry building open to the night air. You step onto a limestone patio, polished so smooth it gleams like a frozen pond in the torchlight. This is where the banquet is happening. Dozens of people, mostly men, are here. They are the city's elite, high-ranking scribes with soft hands that have never held a hoe, military officers with scars that tell stories of distant campaigns, and government officials whose words can decide a man's fortune. They recline on low couches draped in fine white linen, their fingers glistening with oil and their necks adorned with heavy gold collars. Servants, young and silent, move between them, refiling wine cups and offering trays of roasted duck, spiced fish, and sweet cakes made with dates and honey. Your arrival does not go unnoticed. A few heads turn. A few conversations pause for a heartbeat. You are an expected and essential part of this scene, like the music and the wine. The host, a portly man with a weary but powerful face, catches your eye and gives a subtle gesture. You move toward him, your steps measured and graceful. Your smile is a carefully crafted thing, warm and inviting but promising nothing. He hands you a cup of wine, the pottery cool and smooth in your hands. Tucked into the fold of your sash, he places a small, heavy object. You don't look at it, but you feel its solid, reassuring weight against your hip. It is not a coin, for your people have not yet invented that particular convenience. It is a piece of the system, a token that can be traded for a sack of grain, a jug of oil, or the rent for your rooftop room. This small, warm piece of metal is the reason you are here. It is the silent, unaccounted contract. While you sit and talk and laugh, and perhaps pour wine for a powerful man, your mind is a quiet abacus, constantly calculating. The coal on your eyes, the ochre on your lips, the fragrant oil, the fine linen, they all have a cost. This single debit might cover those costs, but it will not buy the herbs you may need if you fall ill. The entire performance of the night, the art of being beautiful and entertaining and agreeable, is a constant negotiation for these small, heavy pieces of copper. Historians will forever debate the exact stats of women like you. Were you revered artists, skilled entertainers, or something else entirely? They search for a neat category, but you live in the grey, blurry reality that at all. You are what these men need you to be, and in return, you receive the means to survive another day. Warm trickle down your neck. The perfume cone on your wig has begun its long, slow melt. It is the clock that measures your night. The weight of the copper debon at your hip feels like an anchor, grounding you in this glittering, unreal world. The night of the banquet fades like a half-remembered dream. You wake not to the sound of harps, but to the familiar, insistent cry of a bread seller in the street below. The heavy wig sits on its stand, a silent, lifeless thing. The perfume cone is long gone. It sent a faint memory on your skin. A small smudge of coal remains beneath your eye, a ghostly trace of the woman you were for a few hours. The copper debon sits cold and solid on your wooden chest, its warmth and promise replaced by the simple, heavy fact of its existence. It is grain for a week. It is a new pair of sandals. It is a moment of security in a life that has very little of it. And it is a reminder of the risk that comes with every single one. Later, when the sun is past its zenith and the punishing heat of the day has begun to soften, you seek the relative cool of the central courtyard. This is the shared heart of your building complex, a dusty, open space where the lives of women intersect. The air hums with a low, constant activity. Two women sit on the ground, their bodies moving in the ancient, rhythmic dance of grinding emmer wheat on a saddle quern, their conversation a low murmur punctuated by the scrape of stone on stone. Naked and dusty, chases a stray dog with a stick, his laughter echoing off the high mud brick walls. The smell of lentils cooking over a small fire mingles with the ever-present scent of dust and humanity. You find a spot in the shade of a wall, ostensibly to mend a small tear in your linen sheath, your needle moving in slow, deliberate stitches. But really, you are here to listen. This courtyard is an archive of knowledge that will never be written on papers, a library of whispers and shared experience. It is here that women trade remedies for a child's cough, advice on how to make a tough cut of meat tender, and warnings about which markets to all sells watered-down beer. And it is here that the most secret knowledge is exchanged, in voices dropped so low they are almost lost beneath the sound of the grinding stone. An older woman is at, her face a beautiful map of wrinkles and her hands gnarled from a lifetime of work, shuffles over and sits beside you. She has seen more risings and settings of the sun than anyone else in this building, and she carries the weight of that knowledge in her bones. She nods at your mending, a silent approval of your diligence. For a while, you both just sit, watching the life of the courtyard unfold. Then she speaks, her voice a dry rustle, like palm fronds in the wind. She talks of the river, how it is lower than it should be for this time of year, and what that might mean for the harvest. This is how it begins. The conversation wins its way through safe, common territory until it finds a quiet, hidden path. Another woman joins you, her belly just beginning to swell with new life. She complains of the morning sickness, and Izette offers her a piece of advice about chewing on a certain kind of root. After the younger woman has moved on, Isette's eyes find yours. There is a deep, knowing sadness in them. She understands your life without you having to speak a word of it. "My full belly is a blessing," she whispers, her gaze still on the pregnant woman, "but only when the granary is also full." It is a proverb and a key. She is unlocking a door for you. You simply nod, your eyes fixed on your needle. "There are ways," she continues, her voice even lower now, "to ask the body to wait. To persuade it not to begin its great work." She speaks of things passed down from her mother, and her mother's mother, and her mother's mother, its ability to hold things. She speaks of thorny plants from the desert that can be ground into a paste. These are the first ingredients in a dangerous, uncertain pharmacy. It is not science as a future world would know it. It is a desperate blend of observation, superstition, and luck. Historians of that future will puzzle over these fragments of women's wisdom, unable to cleanly separate what was meant as a physical barrier, what was a magical charm, and what was a genuine, if crude, medical attempt. For Izette, and for you, there is no difference. It is all part of the same desperate prayer. She tells you these things not with the confidence of a physician, but with the weary caution of someone who knows the risks. For every story of success, there is a shadow story, a whispered tale of a woman who fell into a fever, or who bled for days. The courtyard whispers are not a promise of safety. They are a map of a minefield, drawn by the survivors. The whispers of the courtyard cling to you long after you return to the solitude of your small room. Isette's words were a gift, a sharing of closely guarded knowledge, but they were also terrifying. A pinch of this, a paste of that, a prayer whispered at the right phase of the moon. It all feels as fragile and uncertain as a spider's web. What if you get the amounts wrong? What if it is all just superstition? A story women tell themselves to feel a flicker of control in a world that gives them so little. The risk is too great to leave to chance and whispers. There must be a better way, an official way, and in your world, the only authority higher than a king is a god. And so you decide to seek the counsel of those who speak for them. You take a small portion of the grain you earned and tie it in a clean linen cloth. It is a humble offering, but a sincere one. You walk out into the bright, clear air of the morning, your steps turning towards the grand temple complex that dominates the city's skyline. As you draw closer, the narrow, noisy streets of your neighborhood give way to wide processional avenues. The scale of everything changes. The mud brick homes are replaced by towering stone pylons covered in carved images of gods and pharaohs. The air itself seems different here, quieter, cleaner, heavy with the weight of centuries of ritual. You feel a sense of awe, a feeling deliberately cultivated by the temple architects. You are small here, a single, insignificant soul in the great house of the god. You do not enter the main temple. That is a place for the high priests and the pharaoh himself. Instead, you follow a side path to a smaller, less imposing building. This is a place the common people can approach, a place of healing. A sign of its purpose is the scent that hangs in the air, a clean, sharp smell of incense and natron, the salt used for purification. Inside, the light is dim and the air is cool against your skin. The frantic energy of the city is gone, replaced by a deep, echoing silence. A priest, his head shaved and his body wrapped in a simple kilt of bleached white linen, leads you without a word to a small, clean room. He gestures for you to sit on a low stool and then leaves, his bare feet making no sound on the stone floor. You wait. In the distance, you can hear the faint, rhythmic chanting of a ritual, a sound that has probably been constant within these walls for 100 years. After a time, another man enters. He is older with kind, tired eyes. He introduces himself as a servant of Sekhmet, the fierce lion-headed goddess who can bring plagues but also cure them. He is a physician priest. You look at his hands. They are clean and soft, the hands of a man who works with scrolls, not stone. You tell him why you have come, your voice slow and your words carefully chosen. You do not speak of your profession, but of a desire to keep the body in balance. He listens with a serene, almost detached patience, his head tilted slightly. He does not ask about your partners or your practices. His questions are of a different nature. Has your sleep been troubled by unsettling dreams? Have you made all proper offerings to your household gods? Have you felt a coldness in your spirit? To him, the body and the soul are not separate things. A physical condition is merely a symptom of a spiritual imbalance. He asks you to lie down on a clean reed mat. His hands, as you expected, are gentle. He presses lightly on your belly, but he is not feeling for any physical ailment a modern doctor might seek. He is feeling for blockages in your meta, the channels that he believes carry not just blood and air, but also tears, and even evil spirits throughout your body. Some scholars in the future will argue that these healers had a sophisticated, observational knowledge of anatomy, while others will insist their practice was almost entirely magical. The truth, as is so often the case, is a murky blend of both. His touch is meant to be both diagnostic and calming, a reassurance of his sacred authority. After a few minutes, he helps you sit up. He tells you that your channels seem clear, but that your spirit is troubled. The prescription he offers has nothing to do with acacia gum or honey. He tells you to make an offering of beer and bread to Talwoti, the hippopotamus goddess who protects women. He gives you a small faience amulet of a frog, a symbol of fertility in life, and instructs you to wear it around your neck to encourage the gods to bless you with children. But only at the proper time. He hands you a small packet of dried herbs and instructs you to brew them into a tea each evening to purify your body and calm your heart. He doesn't say it will prevent conception. He says it will bring you back into harmony with the divine will. You leave your offering of grain at the door. As you step back out into the brilliant, unforgiving sunlight of the real world, a quiet disappointment settles in your heart. The temple healer's hands were gentle, his voice was soothing, and his presence was calming, but his advice was as intangible as smoke. He offered you prayers and amulets, divine reassurances for a problem that was painfully, physically real. You came seeking a lock for a door, and he gave you a prayer that the door would simply stay closed on its own. The path of official wisdom has led you to a dead end. You are back where you started, with only the courtyard's dangerous whispers to guide you. The amulet from the temple healer, a small piece of blue-green faience shaped like a frog, feels crude and useless against the skin of your neck. The purifying tea he prescribed tastes of dust and false hope. A few more nights have passed, each one a repetition of the last: the painted face, the fine linen, the practiced smile. You have earned more copper to bends, but the quiet, gnawing anxiety in the pit of your stomach has only grown. The gods, it seems, are content to offer vague blessings, leaving the messy, earth-bound details to you. Tonight, you are not at a boisterous banquet. The setting is quieter, more intimate. You are in the study of a man named Pentu, a high-ranking scribe whose work involves managing the grain accounts for a dozen royal estates. His villa is filled not with soldiers but with scrolls. They are stacked in neat niches carved into the walls, hundreds of them, a library of harvests, contracts, and histories. Pentu is older, a man whose shoulders are stooped from a lifetime of bending over papiers. He is a quiet client, more interested in conversation than in the loud revelry his peers seem to favor. He watches you as you refill his wine cup, his eyes, accustomed to deciphering the intricate marks of a reed pen, noticing the subtle tension in your jaw, the faint shadow of worry that your call cannot entirely hide. He has seen it before in others. He has the precariances of a life like yours. He says nothing for a long time, simply listening to the sound of the crickets in his garden. Then he rises and goes to a large, carved chest in the corner of the room. The sound of rustling papers filling the quiet space. He returns with a small, tightly rolled scroll. It is not a grand, official document. It is clearly old, the edges of the papers slightly frayed. It is tied with a simple linen string. He places it in your hands. It is light, almost weightless, but it feels more significant than any piece of copper he has ever given you. The gods speak in metaphors, he says, his voice low. But sometimes a person needs a recipe, not a proverb. He tells you the scroll belonged to a physician he knew, a man who has long since made his journey to the field of reeds. It is a collection of remedies copied from older texts. He tells you it is not a gift, but a loan of knowledge. A scribe's entire life is built upon the magic of turning spoken words into permanent mark, ensuring that magic is not something done lightly. You clutch the scroll to your chest. You can read. It is a rare skill for a woman of your station, a secret advantage you have guarded closely. You learn it as a child, watching your father, a minor scribe, practice his craft, your mind quietly absorbing the meaning of the strange, flowing shapes. This is a key. This is a source of knowledge far more tangible than a courtyard whisper and far more practical than a priest's prayer. You carry the scroll back through the sleeping city, holding it as carefully as if it were a newborn child. The streets are empty now, cast in the stark, silver light of the moon. In the safety of your own room, with the linen curtain drawn tight, you light your small clay lamp. Your hands tremble slightly as you untie the linen string. You unroll the papers on the floor. It crackles softly, the sound of dry reeds whispering a secret. The text is written in hieratic, the cursive, everyday script of scribes, not the beautiful, formal hieroglyphs you see on temple walls. It is arranged in neat columns. The ink stood a deep, solid black, with certain headings or key ingredients written in red. You see drawings in the margins, simple diagrams of plants and parts of the body. This is a medical text. Historians of the future will find a precious few of these the Korhan papiers. The Ebers papiers, and they will be celebrated as miracles of preservation, windows into the ancient mind. They will debate whether these were practical field guides for doctors or sacred library archives. But to you tonight, this fragile roll of plant fibers is something far more personal. It is a map, and you hope with every fiber of your being that it will show you a safe way through the dangerous landscape of your own body. The flame of your lamp is a single, steady eye in the darkness, and you are its sole focus. You lean over the fragile sheet of papers, your world shrunk to this small circle of golden light. Your finger, the nail smooth and clean, traces the strange, flowing shapes of the hieratic script. It feels like tracing the flight path of a long-dead bird. The scribe who wrote these words lived and died centuries ago, his hand moving with a confidence you can only imagine, his voice now a whisper of dried ink on brittle reeds. You start at the beginning of a section, the heading written in reading for emphasis, a common practice for medical texts, remedies to cause a woman to cease to become pregnant for 1 year or 2 or 3. Your breath catches in your throat. This is it. This is not a prayer or a vague suggestion. It is a title, a promise of a practical result. You read the words aloud, your voice a soft murmur in the still room. The language is old. Some of the words are unfamiliar, like hearing an accent from a distant part of the kingdom, but the meaning is clear enough. The first recipe is for a mixture involving the kernels from the acacia tree, that thorny, resilient plant that dots the landscape beyond the fertile black land. The scroll instructs that they should be ground finely with a piece of lint. This seems plausible. It is a plant, a thing of the earth. You have used other plants for other remedies, for headaches and for soothing bones. This feels like medicine. You continue reading, your finger moving to the next column of text. The second recipe begins with a familiar ingredient: honey. Thick, golden, wild honey. The scribe instructs that it should be mixed with dates, their sticky sweetness a common base for many medicines. The purpose of the honey here seems twofold. It is a binder, a way to hold other ingredients together, but you also know it is seen as a powerful substance in its own right, a gift from the bees that is slow to spoil. Future scientists will one day discover its antibacterial properties, but for you its power is more intuitive and natural magic. Then your eyes fall upon the third recipe and your finger stops. You read the phrase once, then twice, certain you have misunderstood the ancient script. But the marks are clear. Hes Mensebik, the scribe has written excrement of the crocodile. A wave of revulsion washes over you, cold and immediate. Your stomach turns. You pull your hand back from the papiers as if it had suddenly grown hot. All the stories you have ever heard about crocodiles, their ferocity, their power, the way they can snatch a man from the riverbank in a blink of an eye flood your mind. They are avatars of the gods so big, creatures of immense and terrifying power. The idea of touching, let alone using, such a substance feels like a violation, a blasphemy. But you force yourself to look again, to think past the initial horror. You try to see it through the eyes of the physician who wrote these words. In a world where a statue can house a god, where a scarab beetle represents the rising sun, everything is steeped in symbolic power. Perhaps the logic was that the fierce and dangerous nature of the crocodile would act as a guardian, a terrifying barrier to ward off the possibility of new life. Historians thousands of years from now will be locked in this very debate. Was this a crude attempt at a physical barrier, with the dung acting as a base for a kind of plug? Or was it entirely magical, a symbolic deterrent meant to frighten a spirit or a nascent soul away? Or maybe, just maybe, did they observe that the acidic nature of the substance was simply effective? You, sitting in the lamplight, can only wonder. You are caught in the same uncertainty. The scroll continues with practical, clinical detachment. It instructs that the substance should be mixed into a paste with sour milk or fermented plant matter. It describes how this paste should be used to coat a small wad of linen or soft plant fibers, which is then to be placed within the body. The instructions are methodical, precise. There is no mention of prayer, no appeal to the gods. It is presented as a purely mechanical process, a recipe as straightforward as one for baking bread. You stare at the words for a long time, the flickering lamplight making the spiddery script seem to dance. The revulsion is still there, and not in your belly, but beneath it. Something else is taking root, a cold, hard resolve. The whispers in the courtyard gave you fear. The priests at the temple gave you hollow comfort. This ancient, disgusting, terrifying scroll, it has given you a plan. A concrete, actionable, horrifying plan. It is the most terrible hope you have ever felt. The morning after your night of study feels different. The sun is just as bright, the air just as dusty, but a new cold clarity has settled within you. The questions have vanished, replaced by a grim and methodical to-do list. The recipes on the papiers, as horrifying as they were, have given you something the priest and the old women could not, a set of concrete instructions. A path to walk, no matter how unpleasant the terrain, and hide it deep within your wooden chest. Then, with a small copper deben tucked securely in your sash, you step out into the roaring river of Thebes at midday. Your destination is the marketplace, the chaotic, vibrant, beating heart of the city. The noise hits you first, a physical wave of sound, the cacophony of 1,000 haggling voices, the braying of donkeys, the bleating of goats, the sharp cries of vendors hawking their wares. Then come the smells, a dizzying tapestry woven from the scent of baking bread, roasting meat, exotic spices piled high in colorful mounds, the sharp tang of fish fresh from the river, and the sweet trot of discarded fruit under the hot sun. You navigate the crowded thoroughfare, a sea of bodies in white linen, your movements practiced and unobtrusive. You are an expert at being present but unseen. You pass the stalls you know well, the grain merchants, their bins overflowing with barley, and Dema, the vegetable sellers, with their neat stacks of onions, garlic, and Nix, the potters, their clay vessels of all shapes and sizes creating a small terracotta mountain. But you are not here for the staples of life. You are here for something far more specific. You turn away from the main, sun-drenched square and into a narrower, shaded alleyway where the less common trades are practiced. Here the air smells of dried herbs and incense. You find the stall you are looking for. It is not bright or inviting. It is a small shadowed space, its counter covered in an array of strange and wonderful things, bundles of dried roots tied with string, clay pots filled with dark powders, small amulets carved from bone, and baskets of dried flowers. The woman who sits behind the counter is as ancient as her wares, her face a mask of deep wrinkles, her eyes small and bright like a bird. She is a seller of cures and charms, a purveyor of the physical ingredients for magic. You approach her stall, and she watches you, her expression unreadable. You do not ask for acacia gum by its formal name. You use the language of the courtyard, the descriptive shorthand of women. I need the tears of the thorny tree, you say, your voice quiet but steady. The old woman does not ask what for. She simply gives a slow, knowing nod. She has sold these same hard, amber-colored globals to other women just like you. She knows their purpose, and she knows not to speak of it. She reaches into a large sack behind her and scoops a small handful of the dried resin into a piece of coarse linen. They look like solidified drops of sunlight, beautiful and inert. But you know from the scroll that when ground, they become something else. You feel the sharp, jagged edges of the pieces through the cloth. It is a thorny prize indeed. You hand her the copper dip, and it is a high price for such a small amount. But you are paying for her knowledge and her discretion as much as for the gum itself. As she takes the copper, her dry, papery fingers brush against yours. It feels like a silent transfer of complicity, of shared, difficult knowledge. You walk away, the small, lumpy bag held tightly in your hand. This is the first step. This one ingredient at least feels like medicine. Later scholars will discover that acacia gum, when fermented as the scroll instructs, creates lactic acid, a genuine spermicide. They will debate endlessly whether the ancient Egyptians knew this through careful observation and trial and error, or if they simply stumbled upon an effective ingredient through pure luck. Its true purpose shrouded in magical thinking. Of course, know none of this. You only know that you are following a recipe, trusting in the wisdom of a long-dead physician. You also know from your limited life experience that this same resin, when heated, becomes a powerful glue used by carpenters to join wood. The idea that you are about to use a furniture adhesive for such an intimate and vital purpose is a strange and unsettling thought. One you push quickly from your mind. One ingredient is secured. The small bag of acacia gum feels heavy in your hand. Its jagged contents a secret weight. You shift its position, tucking it deeper into the folds of your sash, a thorny promise hidden from the world. Your first errand is done. The marketplace still rolls around you, a symphony of commerce and life that feels both distant and overwhelmingly immediate. You take a moment, standing near a pillar that offers a sliver of shade, and watch the endless flow of people. Everyone here has a purpose, a list of needs, a measure of grain, a new pot, a length of linen. Your own list feels profane by comparison, a set of instructions for a ritual no one would ever speak of in this bright public space. You push away from the pillar and move back into the main thoroughfare. Your destination this time is in the opposite direction, toward the section of the market that deals in finer goods. Here, the smells change. The raw, earthy scents of vegetables and livestock give way to the more refined perfumes of incense, cedarwood, and spiced oils. This is where the priests come to buy supplies for the temples, and where the wealthy send their servants to purchase luxuries. The honey seller's stall is easy to find. It is a beacon of golden light in the crowded alley. Unlike the herb woman's shadowed nook, this stall is bright and clean. The vendor is a stout, cheerful man with a fringe of grey hair, his arms thick with muscle from a life of handling heavy clay jars. He has a wide variety of his product on display. There are large, sealed amphorae for the great houses, smaller, more delicate jars for personal use, and even sections of honeycomb, displayed on clean linen, their waxy cells still glistening unperfect, a marvel of insect engineering. The air around his stall is thick with the sweet, intoxicating scent of honey and beeswax, a smell so pure and wholesome, it feels like a memory of childhood. You wait as a servant from a noble house finishes her purchase, a list of items for her master's kitchen. The vendor treats her with a jovial respect. Then he turns to you, his eyes crinkling in a friendly smile. "And what can I offer you, my dear?" A little sweetness to brighten the day. His innocent words are a small, sharp sting. You try to return his smile, but you can feel the tightness in your own face. By small jar, you say, your voice quieter than you intended. "The thickest you have." He nods enthusiastically, seeing only a customer, not the desperate purpose behind the request. "Ah, a wise choice. The best honey comes from the temple apiaries at Karnak. The bees there feast on the lotus and the papyrus flowers. A gift from the gods themselves." He bustles around, selecting a small, handsome clay pot, sealed with a disc of beeswax. "It is good for everything. Soothe a sore throat, heal a burn, sweeten a cake. Even the Imbamals use the finest honey to help preserve the noble dead for their journey to the afterlife." This last piece of information, offered so casually, lands with a strange weight. The priests use this golden liquid to preserve what is already dead, to prepare it for eternity. And you are about to use it as part of a mixture to prevent a life from ever beginning. The irony is so bitter, so profound, that you almost flinch. The honey is a disguise in more ways than one. It will mask the texture and scent of the other ingredients, certainly, but it also cloaks the entire endeavor in a veneer of wholesomeness, its natural purity a lie that you will tell to your own body. You pay the man, another copper dip and gone. He hands you the pot. It is surprisingly heavy and warm from the sun. You can almost feel the captured sunlight and the energy of 1,000 flowers within it. As you hold it, you remember being a small child and being given a single drop of honey on your tongue as a rare treat. Its overwhelming sweetness a moment of pure, uncomplicated joy. The memory feels like it belongs to another person, in another lifetime. Scholars, in a time so distant it may as well be another planet, will wonder about honey's role in these ancient recipes. Was it simply a thick, sticky base to hold the other, more active ingredients together? Was it a psychological comfort, a sweetening of a deeply unpleasant task? Or did these ancient healers have an inkling of its other properties, an observational understanding that it could prevent infection, a clean sweetness to ward off the sickness that the other, fouler ingredients might invite? You have no answers to these future questions. You only know what the scroll told you to do. You have your thorny prize, and now you have your golden disguise. The two easiest, most mundane ingredients are secured. Your heart grows a little colder, a little heavier, as you turn your thoughts to the third. For that, you cannot go to any market stall. For that, you must go to the riverbank. The weight of the honey pot in one hand and the lumpy bag of acacia resin in the other feel imbalanced, a strange set of scales. One is a sweet, golden promise, the other a sharp, thorny reality. You hold them both as you walk away from the marketplace, leaving its noise and its life behind you. Your path takes you away from the heart of the city, towards the great, glittering expanse of the Nile itself. You do not go to the busy quays where the trading ships and ferry boats are moored, where men shout and sweat as they load and load goods. You follow a smaller, less traveled path that winds along the water's edge, leading to the marshy wetlands where the papyrus reeds grow thick and tall. The air changes here. The dry, dusty heat of the city is replaced by a thick, humid warmth that smells of mud, fish, and decaying green things. The sounds change too. The roar of humanity fades, replaced by the gentle, rhythmic lapping of the river against the shore, the whisper of the wind through the reeds, and the drowsy hum of insects. This is a liminal space, a place that is neither land nor water, neither the structured world of man, nor the complete wilderness of the desert. This is the domain of the river god, Happy, and his most fearsome child, Serbik the crocodile. You slow your steps, your senses on high alert. This is not a place to be careless. Every story of a missing goat, every cautionary tale told to children who play too close to the water's edge, comes alive in this quiet, sun-drenched landscape. You scan the riverbank ahead. You see a flash of brilliant blue as a kingfisher dives for its meal. You see the stately, slow walk of a heron in the shallows. and then you see them. Further down, on a sun-baked mudflat, two of them lie perfectly still, looking more like rough, dark logs than living creatures. They are colossal, ancient beings. Their hides a testament to 1,000 sunrises. They are the sacred guardians of the river, the embodiment of its terrifying, life-taking power. Your heart beats a little faster. You know from the fishermen that these are the places where they haul themselves out of the water to bask in the sun's warmth, digesting their meals in a state of reptilian calm. And you know from the grim practicality of the scroll that they leave something behind. You clutch the empty, wide-mouthed clay pot you brought for this purpose. Its rough texture is stark contrast to the smooth honey jar. You find a spot that is blessedly empty of any giant reptiles, but shows clear signs of their recent presence, massive slide marks in the mud where a heavy body has dragged itself back into the water. And there, drying in the intense heat of the sun, is the object of your quest, the earthy offering. The final, unthinkable ingredient. For a long moment, you just stand there, breathing in the thick, river-scented air. It feels like a desecration, a profanity, terrifying creature its waste and use it for your own small, human purpose. With a stick you picked up along the path, you carefully, reluctantly, gather a small amount of the dry, fibrous material and push it into your pot. You try not to look too closely. You try not to breathe too deeply. You focus on the words of the papiers, treating this as a clinical medical task. The scribe who wrote those words did so with no hint of revulsion. To him it was just another ingredient, like salt or natron. You try to buy his detachment. As you quickly cover the pot with a piece of linen and tie it shut, a storm of questions floods your mind. Is this truly medicine, or is it a kind of sympathetic magic? Are you meant to create a physical barrier, something so foul and inhospitable that it simply blocks the path? Or are you meant to be borrowing the crocodile's power, its ferocity, placing a symbolic guardian within yourself to frighten away the possibility of new life? Scholars, thousands of years after you are dust, will be asking these very same questions. They will analyze the chemical composition, discovering that the substance is alkaline and might actually have the opposite of the desired effect. They will debate endlessly, never truly knowing if this was a colossal medical misunderstanding or a ritual whose magical logic is lost to time. You only know that you have it. You have all three ingredients now. You turn your back on the river, on the silent, sleeping gods in the shape of reptiles, and you walk quickly back toward the city. You feel like a thief. The honeypot feels clean and good in your hand. The bag of acacia resin feels sharp and practical. But the third pot, the one containing the riverbank's earthy offering, feels like a dark and dangerous secret, a piece of the wild, untamable world that you are about to take into the most private, intimate part of your own. Back in the sanctuary of your small, quiet room, you close the door, shutting out the world. The sounds of the city are muffled here, a distant, rhythmic hum, like the breathing of a great beast. The air inside is still and warm. You clear a space on the cool clay floor and place your acquisitions in a row. 3 simple clay pots, each one holding a universe of meaning. In the first is the honey, a pool of captured sunlight, its scent sweet and wholesome. It speaks of order, of the patient work of bees, of the gods' benevolence. It is the ingredient of civilization. In the second are the sharp, amber tears of the acacia tree. It smells faintly of dust and wood. It speaks of the earth's pharmacy, of remedies drawn from roots and saps. It is the ingredient of medicine. And in the third, covered by its linen cloth, is the one you try not to think about. It carries the scent of the riverbank, of mud and wildness. It speaks of a power that is ancient, terrifying, and completely untamed. It is the ingredient of fear. You sit on your reed mat and simply look at them. The scroll, the loan of knowledge from the quiet scribe, lies unrolled beside you. You trace the words of the recipe again, but this time, you are not just reading the instructions. You are trying to understand the mind of the man who wrote them. What was he thinking? What logic, what belief led him to combine these 3 impossibly different substances? You find yourself lost in a quiet, internal debate. On one hand, the recipe could be entirely practical. A physician, through centuries of trial and error passed down from master to apprentice, might have observed that a thick, sticky paste placed in the right location could simply act as a barrier. A physical wall. In this version of the story, the honey is the thick, adhesive base. The acacia gum, when ground and fermented, adds a gummy, perhaps even slightly irritating quality that makes the environment inhospitable. And the crocodile dung, perhaps it was just the most readily available fibrous, then dense binding agent he could think of, a substance that would hold the plug together for a long time. A grimly practical choice, devoid of any magic. But then, you look at the third part, and that simple, mechanical explanation feels hollow. You live in a world saturated with magic, where a carved stone eye can ward off evil and a whispered incantation can heal a fever. Nothing is just what it is. Everything is a symbol, a vessel for a deeper power. And there is no creature more powerful, more symbolic than the crocodile. To use a part of it, even its waste, is to invoke its spirit. So, another possibility unfolds in your mind. Perhaps the recipe has nothing to do with a physical barrier at all. Perhaps it is a magical deterrent. In this version, the honey is a sweet offering to appease the spirits. The acacia, with its sharp thorns, is a symbol of protection, a magical fence. And the crocodile dung is the most powerful component of all. It is a piece of the great and terrible god so big, you would be placing a sacred, terrifying relic within yourself, a clear and unambiguous signal to any nascent spirit of life that this body is guarded by a fearsome deity. It would not be a locked door, but a door with a monster standing guard before it. You could not possibly know, of course, that this very argument would echo for thousands of years. That men and women in a future you cannot imagine would sit in quiet libraries, poring over translations of this exact same papers. And they would be locked in this same endless debate. They would give it formal names, calling one theory the materialist approach and the other the magical one. They would write long, complicated papers, analyzing the chemical properties of sour milk and the symbolic weight of the crocodile in religious texts. They would argue passionately, each certain they had grasped the true mindset of the ancient physician. Some would claim your ancestors were pragmatic scientists trapped by the language of magic, while others would insist they were devout mystics for whom medicine and magic were the exact same thing. But you, sitting here in the warm, lamplit islands, are caught between these two worlds. Perhaps the truth is both at once. Perhaps the physician believed the physical properties of the paste and its magical power were two sides of the same coin, that one could not work without the other. The acacia gum was the lock, and the crocodile was the divine curse placed upon it. A truly effective remedy needed both the mundane and the magical. For a long moment, the intellectual puzzle is a welcome distraction. It is a scribe's game, a priest's debate, but it cannot last. The question of why it is supposed to work is a luxury you cannot afford. The only question that matters to you is if it will work. The debate fades from your mind, replaced by the cold, heavy reality of the task ahead. You have the ingredients. You have the instructions. The time for questioning is over. It is time to begin the work. The time for thinking is over. The time for doing has arrived. You rise and retrieve the tools for this strange and silent work. They are not the tools of a physician. They are the common, everyday implements found in any woman's home: a heavy stone bowl, wide and shallow, and a smaller, rounded grinding stone that fits comfortably in your palm. For generations, women have used these to grind wheat into flour, spices into powder, and pigments into paint. You will use them to compound the medicine of desperation. You place the bowl on the floor before you, its cool, solid weight a small comfort. You begin with the acacia resin. You untie the linen bag and pour the hard, umber-colored lumps into the bowl. They make a sharp, cracking sound as they hit the stone, like tiny bones breaking. You take the grinding stone in your hand, feeling its familiar weight. And then you begin. The rhythm is slow and deliberate, a circular motion pressing down with the weight of your shoulders. At first, the resin resists, the hard pieces skittering around the bowl. But slowly, under the steady pressure, they begin to break apart. A fine, pale dust starts to form at the edges of the stone. The air fills with a faint, dry, woody scent, the ancient perfume of a desert tree. Your knuckles ache, your arm begins to tire. But you do not stop. You continue the slow, rhythmic grinding, a patient, circular prayer of stone against stone. As you work, you think of the carpenters who use this same resin, melting it down to join wood for a rich man's chair or a queen's coffin. It is a substance meant to hold things together, to seal them shut. It is a strange and unsettling comfort. When the last of the amber tears has been reduced to a uniform, gritty powder, you pause. You wipe a bead of sweat from your brow with the back of your hand. Now comes the part you have been dreading. With a deep, steadying breath, you reach for the third pot. Your fingers are clumsy as you untie the linen cover. You do not allow yourself to hesitate. You tip the pot and add its contents to the acacia powder in the bowl. The scent is not foul in the way of city refuse. It is the smell of the river's edge, a dry, earthy odor of mud and half-digested reeds. It is wild and alien. You look at the mixture in the bowl, the pale powder of the acacia now sullied with the dark, fibrous material from the riverbank. It looks like a desecration. You pick up the grinding stone again. Its weight feels heavier now. You resume the rhythm, your jaw tight with resolve. The two substances combine under the pressure of the stone, becoming a single homogeneous brownish powder. You focus only on the movement, the sound, the feeling of the stone in your hand. You become a machine, a set of hands performing a task dictated by a long-dead scribe. Finally, it is time for the last ingredient. You unseal the pot of honey. The sweet, clean scent rises to meet you, a stark and beautiful contrast to the earthy odor in the bowl. You tilt the jar, and a thick, sluggish ribbon of liquid gold descends into the powder. You watch as it pools in the center, a shining, amber eye in a field of brown dust. This at least feels like something good and clean. Honey is a healer. You have used it yourself to soothe a burn, to dress a cut. Its sticky sweetness a balm that keeps the wound clean. Ancient healers and future scientists alike would agree on its power, even if they used different words to describe it. Now, the work changes. You set aside the grinding stone and use a simple wooden spatula to stir, to fold, to combine. The honey is thick and resists your efforts, but slowly it incorporates the dry ingredients, transforming the powder into a thick, sticky, and deeply unpleasant-looking paste. The color is a muddy, indeterminate brown, and the texture is both gummy and fibrous. It looks like nothing that should ever be touched, let alone ever be touched, as you stare at the final product. Sitting in the bottom of the stone bowl, a final, chilling thought occurs to you. Historians will debate it forever. Did the known antiseptic properties of the honey serve a hidden purpose? Was it included not just as a binder, but as a desperate, intuitive attempt to counteract the incredible risk of infection that the other ingredients so obviously invited? Was it a stroke of unrecognized genius or just a lucky accident? You will never know. You only know that the recipe is complete. The work is done. You sit back on your heels, your hands covered in the sticky, fragrant residue. In the flickering lamplight, you, the stone bowl, and its grotesque contents sit in a silent, unholy trinity. The work of your hands is finished. The work of your body is about to begin. You look at the thick, brown paste in the bottom of the stone bowl. It seems to absorb the lamplight, a small circle of profound ugliness in your quiet, clean room. There is no one here to help you, no one to offer a comforting word. The scribe who lent you the papiers, the old women in the courtyard, the priest in the temple, they are all ghosts now. This final, most intimate step must be taken alone. It is a ritual with only one participant and one silent, unknowable God chance. You begin the final preparations with a slow, deliberate calm that you do not feel. You pour a little water from a clay jug into a basin and wash your hands, scrubbing them with a piece of natron until they are raw and clean. It is a small, almost pathetic gesture of purity before an act that feels anything but. The priests purify themselves before entering the sacred heart of a temple. You purify your hands before turning your own body into a vessel for a foul concoction. From your wooden chest, you take a strip of clean, worn linen, a piece from an old sheath that has been washed so many times it is as soft as a moth's wing. You fold it carefully, methodically, creating a small, dense wad, a carrier for the medicine. This small piece of cloth will be the physical messenger, the vessel that carries the strange prayer of the papiers into the most private part of yourself. Then you turn back to the bowl. You take a breath, hold it, and then scoop up a portion of the paste with the linen. It is sticky, thick, and surprisingly cool to the touch. The scent rises to meet you a strange, unholy marriage of sweet honey, dry acacia, and the wild, earthy smell of the riverbank. It is the scent of desperation. You coat the linen wood carefully, ensuring it is completely covered in the thick, brown mixture. You lie down on the cool reed mat on the floor, the single flame of your lamp casting your shadow, large and distorted on the whitewashed wall behind you. For a moment, you are just a woman in a room, a simple shape of a body at rest, but you are about to perform an act that separates you from the simple, natural rhythms of the world, an act of defiance against your own biology. With a clinical detachment you have borrowed from the papiers itself, you perform the final step. You introduce the remedy into your body. The sensation is one of profound strangeness. It is a violation, not a violence, but of nature. It is the feeling of a secret being pushed into a place that should have no secrets. It is cold, foreign, and wrong. You are placing a barrier, a plug, a magical guardian made of honey glue, and the waste of a river monster inside the very place where new life is meant to begin. When it is done, you remain still, lying on the mat, breathing in the quiet, lamplit air. There is a new awareness in your body now, a feeling of being occupied by something other than yourself. You feel sealed, locked from the inside. It is a heavy, uncomfortable, and deeply lonely sensation. You have followed the recipe. You have completed the ritual. You have placed your faith not in a god, but in the arcane knowledge of a dead physician. You have no idea if you have just saved your own future or invited a feverish sickness into your blood. The scroll offered instructions, but it offered no comfort, no hint of what to expect next. Scholars of the future, for all their analysis, will find the same silence. The papyri are clinical documents, focused on ingredients and instructions, but they are almost entirely mute on the subject of a woman's experience, the discomfort, the fear, and the constant, terrifying risk of infection, a concept you don't even have a word for, but whose deadly results you have seen with your own eyes. You sit up slowly. The lamp is beginning to burn low, the oil almost gone. The ritual is over. Your part in the active work is done. You are no longer the physician. You are now the patient, waiting to see if the cure is worse than the disease. The small flame in your lamp sputters, drinks the last of its oil, and dies. Darkness rushes into the room, thick and absolute. The only thing that remains is the new and alien feeling inside you. It is a dull, heavy awareness, a physical presence that is not a part of you. It is a secret stone you have swallowed. You lie on your mat in the silent dark, every breath a reminder of what you have done, of what now resides within you. Sleep, when it finally comes, is not a gentle oblivion, but a shallow, troubled state, as if one part of your mind must remain awake to stand guard over this foreign object in your own interior. You awaken to the familiar sounds of morning, a distant donkey's bray, the chatter of women in the courtyard, but the first sensation you register is the internal one. A low, persistent reminder. You get up, and the simple act of moving, of swinging your legs from the mat to the floor, feels different. You are intensely aware of your own body in a way you never were before. It does not feel like a part of you, a natural extension of your will. It feels like a vessel you inhabit, a complicated and temperamental piece of machinery that you are responsible for maintaining. A prison of skin and bone. Your body is the source of your income, the canvas for your art, the tool of your trade. But it is also a constant threat. Its natural, healthy functions are the very things that could ruin you. A fever, a sickness, a pregnancy, any of these could spell the end of your fragile independence. And so you must manage it, police it, and now invade it with strange and foul concoctions. You feel a profound sense of detachment from it, as if the real you was a separate entity, a weary operator trapped inside a rebellious machine. You step out into the courtyard for a jug of water, and the world seems to reinforce this feeling. You see a young woman married, her belly swollen with life. Her body is a vessel for creation, given over entirely to a purpose that is not her own. She moves with a slow, burdened grace, and you see in her a kind of surrender, a willing imprisonment. Then you see Zet, the old woman, her body wizened and frail, her belly long since quiet, a fragile container for a long life, its biological purpose fulfilled and finished. You are neither of these. Your body is a vessel at war with itself, its purpose actively, deliberately thwarted. You think of the priest-physician at the temple, how he spoke of the metu, the channels that run through the body carrying air, blood and spirit. A sickness, he believed, was a blockage in one of these channels. By that logic, you have deliberately made yourself sick. You have blocked the most fundamental channel of all, choosing a state of controlled imbalance over the chaotic, life-altering balance of nature. Other women sometimes whisper stories about the uterus, believing it can become dislodged and wander throughout the body, causing shortness of breath or fits of melancholy. They speak of it as if it were a separate creature, a restless animal living inside them. While your mind knows it is fixed in place, the feeling resonates deeply with you now. It is as if a part of you has its own will, its own desires that are in direct opposition to your own, trying to keep a powerful and unruly prisoner in her cell. Scribes and priests in your time are still quietly debating where the soul, the consciousness, the true self actually resides. Is it in the head, the source of thoughts, or is it in the ib, the heart, which they believe is the seat of intelligence, emotion, and memory? It is the heart they weigh against a feather in the final judgment. As you stand by the well, the cool clay of the water jug in your hands, you feel certain that the real you, your ib, is in your chest, watching with a mixture of fear and disgust as the lower provinces of her own kingdom rise in a slow, biological revolt. You watch a group of men walk by, their bare chests muscular and dark from the sun. They are carpenters on their way to a building site, their bodies tools they command with ease. Their bodies do not hold these kinds of secrets, these internal rebellions. They are spears, designed for action in the world. You are a jar, a container, and your greatest struggle is to control what happens within your own clay walls. This feeling, this sense of being a passenger in your own skin, will not leave you. It is the price of the remedy, a deeper cost than any coppered ebon. The days that follow the ritual unfold in a slow, strange rhythm. The heavy, foreign sensation within you gradually fades, or perhaps you simply grow accustomed to it, the way a person grows used to a persistent, low-grade ache. But the emotional weight of it remains. Every sunrise brings with it a fresh wave of quiet, internal questioning. Did it work? Was it all for nothing? Have you poisoned yourself for no reason? You live in a state of suspended animation, a breath held for an impossibly long time. Your life continues its outward course. You paint your eyes with kohl. You attend the banquets of wealthy men. You laugh at their jokes, and you collect the small, heavy copper D-bends that ensure your survival. But beneath the mask of the painted, perfumed woman of the night, you are a vigilant observer of your own body, a priestess watching for a sign from a silent and temperamental god. Every small change, every subtle shift in feeling, is scrutinized, analyzed, and feared. A moment of unusual fatigue, a fleeting wave of nausea, any of these could be the first whisper of a verdict you are not ready to hear. The most powerful and terrifying judge of all is the moon. You watch its nightly journey across the star-dusted sky with a new and profound anxiety. You have always known its cycles, the way it waxes from a silver sliver to a glowing, perfect disk, and then wanes back into darkness. But now, its rhythm is tied to the most intimate rhythm of your own body. It is a celestial clock, counting down the days until you will know for certain if your desperate remedy has been successful. You find yourself making small, unconscious bargains with the gods you had previously dismissed. As you pass a small neighborhood shrine to Tawurti, the hippopotamus-headed goddess of childbirth and protection, you leave a small wildflower at her feet. It is a confusing, paradoxical prayer. You are not asking her to bless you with a child, but to protect you from one. You are asking the Great Mother to grant you a temporary state of barrenness. It feels like a blasphemy, but you do it anyway, your desperation overriding your sense of propriety. In the quiet moments, in the solitude of your room, the uncertainty is a living thing. You unroll the paper, scroll and read the words again and again, searching for some clue. Some small phrase you might have missed that would offer a guarantee or reassurance. But the text is as silent and clinical as ever. Remedies to cause a woman to cease to become pregnant for 1 year, or 2, or 3. It is a title, not a promise. It is a title, not a promise. It does not speak of the waiting. It does not acknowledge the terror of the unknown. Ancient medical texts, as future scholars will note with some frustration, are catalogues of ingredients and procedures, not records of patient outcomes. There is no chapter on what to do when the waiting becomes unbearable. One evening, you are at a gathering smaller and quieter than usual. The host is an old general, a man whose body is a map of old battles. He is in a melancholic mood, and he speaks of his youth, of a campaign he fought far to the south, in the lands of Nubia. He describes the long, agonizing wait before a battle, the night spent checking weapons and armor, listening to the sounds of the enemy camp across the dark expanse of desert, not knowing if the dawn would bring victory or death. He says, his voice a low rumble, he is a crueler enemy than any man with a spear. It eats at the heart from the inside. His words strike you with the force of a physical blow. He is a great man, a hero of the kingdom, and yet he is describing the exact landscape of your own private, silent war. You feel a strange and unexpected kinship with this old soldier. His battle was for the glory of the pharaoh. Yours is for the survival of your own small, precarious life. But the enemy, the soul-corroding uncertainty of waiting for a verdict, is exactly the same. The moon continues its slow, majestic arc across the sky, oblivious to your turmoil. Each night it grows a little fuller, a little brighter, a silent judge moving ever closer to the bench. The moon has become a perfect, polished silver disk in the night sky. It hangs directly overhead, flooding the sleeping city with its cool, ethereal light. It is the judge, and it has taken its seat, and it is silent, the sign you have been waiting for, the familiar monthly tide that would have been a signal of relief, a cleansing confirmation that your body is still your own, has not come. The river of your own biology has failed to flood its bank. At first you tell yourself it is the remedy itself. Perhaps such a potent concoction of magic and medicine has simply changed things, altered the rhythm, stunned your body into a new kind of schedule. You cling to this thought like a drowning person clings to a single reed. It is a fragile, flimsy hope, but it is all you have. Your eyes a little more brittle, your eyes a little more shadowed. The copper bends feel heavier, and the laughter at the banquet sounds harsher, more distant. But as another week passes, and the moon begins its slow, merciless process of waning, new signs begin to whisper. A strange, sour, metallic taste in your mouth when you wake in the morning. A sudden, violent aversion to the smell of roasting fish, a scent that has been a simple, unremarkable part of your daily life since you were a child. And a new kind of weariness, a profound, bone-deep fatigue that settles in your limbs long before the night is over. These are not the signs of a body simply thrown off its rhythm. These are the secret, insidious signs of a body that has begun a great and terrible work without your permission. The whispers of the courtyard, which you once sought for guidance, now become a source of torment. You hear two women congratulating another on the news that she is expecting a child. They speak of the very same signs you are now experiencing, but their words are filled with joy and hope. The metallic taste is the first sign the gods have blessed you. One says, it means a strong child is taking root. Each happy word is a fresh turn of the knife in your own quiet, desperate heart. The great Mother Torty, it seems, has a rather blunt sense of irony. Desperate. You remember another piece of courtyard wisdom, a last resort for women who are waiting for their own kind of verdict. An old and peculiar test. Into one, you place a handful of barley. Into the other, a handful of emmer wheat. You find a quiet, secluded corner of the courtyard, a place where no one will see you, and you bury the two bags in a small patch of damp earth. Then, each morning before the sun is fully risen, you bring a small pot of your own urine and water the spot. The belief is simple. If the grain sprouts, you are pregnant. If it does not, your body is still your own. It is a strange piece of agricultural magic, a way of asking the earth to reveal the secrets of your own internal soil. Some women even whisper that if the barley sprouts first, it will be a boy, and if the emmer sprouts first, it will be a girl. And so you wait again. But this is a new kind of waiting, more focused, more intense. The vast, slow clock of the moon has been replaced by the small, urgent ticking of a sprouting seed. Every morning you perform your secret ritual, your heart pounding in your chest as you pour the water. You peer at the damp earth, searching for the first hint of green. For days, there is nothing. The soil remains stubbornly brown and inert, and you allow a tiny, dangerous flower of hope to bloom in your chest. Then, one morning, you see it. A single, impossibly green shoot, a tiny spear of life, has pushed its way up through the dark earth. It is a barley sprout. The sight of it so small, so new, so vital should be a thing of beauty. But to you, it is a death sentence. A cold, slow wave of certainty washes through you, wiping away all the flimsy structures of hope you had built. Historians in a far distant future will be astonished when they test this ancient method. They will discover that the hormones in a pregnant woman's urine can, in fact, stimulate seed growth with a surprising degree of accuracy. They will debate endlessly whether the Egyptians, through meticulous observation, had stumbled upon a genuine bioindicator, or if it was simply a lucky guess wrapped in a comforting ritual. But for you, there is no debate. The crocodile, the honey, the thorns, all of it. The revulsion, the expense. It was for nothing. The gods, or the remedy, or both have not listened. The prison of your body has just announced it is building a new cell, and you are the one who will be locked inside. The single green barley sprout is not a thing of joy. It is an indictment, a tiny, living monument to your failure. You stare at it for a long time, the cool morning air on your skin, until the sun has climbed higher, turning the sky from soft gray to a brilliant, unforgiving blue. You carefully scoop the earth back over the sprout, burying the evidence, but you cannot bury the knowledge. It lives inside you now, a second heartbeat of pure dread. The world that felt so full of agonizing uncertainty just yesterday now seems horribly, brutally clear. There are no more questions. There is only a single, terrible fact. A fact that will, in a matter of months, become visible to the world, ending your livelihood and casting you into a future of poverty and shame. The path of prevention has closed behind you. Before you lies a new path, a darkened, more dangerous one. A path that does not aim to lock a door, but to break it down. You do not go back to your room. You walk your steps, sameless at first, through the awakening city. You see a potter at his wheel, his hands skillfully raising a beautiful shape from a lump of wet clay. You see a weaver at her loom, her fingers flying as she transforms threads into cloth. They are creators. You too are creating, but against your will. Your body is a potter's wheel that has started spinning on its own, shaping a life you did not ask for and cannot afford. Your wandering feet eventually led you back to the familiar courtyard. It is the only place you can go. You find Azette, the old woman, sitting in her usual spot in the shade, her and old hands methodically sorting through a basket of dried beans. She looks up as you approach, and her sharp, bird-like eyes see everything in an instant. She sees the hollowed-out look on your face, the ghost of a scream trapped behind your eyes. She does not need you to speak. She has seen this look on the faces of women before. She says nothing, merely patting the empty space on the reed mat beside her. You sink down, your limbs heavy, your mind a storm of silent panic. For a long time, neither of you speaks. The only sound is the soft clicking of the beans as she sorts them, a calm, rhythmic sound in a world that has lost all its rhythm. Finally, she sets the basket aside. She leans closer, and her voice is lower than you have ever heard it, a dry whisper meant only for you. Sometimes, she says, her gaze fixed on the dusty ground, a seed takes root in a field that is not ready for planting. A wise farmer does not allow it to grow. It will only steal the water from the other crops and wither before the harvest. Her agricultural metaphor is a key, unlocking the last and most forbidden door of knowledge. You meet her eyes, and in them you see not judgment, but a deep, ancient well of sorrowful understanding. You simply nod, a single jerky movement. That is all the confirmation she needs. "This is not a matter of honey and thorns," she whispers, her voice barely audible over the distant sounds of the city. "This is a harder magic, a more dangerous prayer." She tells you of plants that do not build barriers but that tear them down. She speaks of the seeds of the pomegranate, that blood-red fruit of the underworld, which must be ground into a fine powder and mixed with beer. She tells you of a certain kind of wild celery, whose seeds can bring on a woman's bleeding with a shocking and violent speed. Then she speaks of the most potent, dangerous of all, a bitter, gnarled root that grows only in the high desert, a plant whose name is only ever spoken in a whisper. She tells you that a tea brewed from this root will cause the body to turn on itself, to violently expel whatever is within it. She describes the process with a chilling, clinical detachment, the terrible cramping, like a fist of hot iron twisting in your belly. The bleeding that follows, a river that can, if the dose is wrong or the gods are cruel, carry a woman's own life away with it. The line between the remedy and the poison is as thin as a spider's thread, she says, her old hand resting on your arm, her touch as dry and light as a leaf. Too little, and it does nothing. Too much and you will make your journey to the field of reeds before your time. This is the knowledge you came for. The final terrible recipe. Historians will find fragments of these same recipes in the medical papier, tucked between remedies for blindness and cures for baldness. They will debate their efficacy, arguing whether they worked through hormonal interference or if they were simply poisons, designed to make the body so violently ill. But a miscarriage was the inevitable, brutal side effect. You do not have the luxury of academic debate. Izzet has given you the map. Now you must decide if you have the courage or the desperation to walk this last, dark path where the only possible outcomes are a bloody, painful freedom or a quiet, final stillness. You leave Izzet in the courtyard, the old woman's whispered recipes clinging to you like a shroud. The world, which seemed so sharp and clear in its cruelty just this morning, has now become a hazy, unreal landscape. The sounds of the city, a merchant's shout, a child's cry reach you as if from a great distance. You feel disconnected, a ghost walking through your own life. The choice before you is so monumental, so stark, that it seems to suck all the color and warmth from the world around you. You return to your room and lie down on your reed mat, but you cannot rest. You close your eyes, but you cannot escape the images that Izet's words have planted in your mind: the fist of hot iron, the river of blood. You have a choice, but it is the kind of choice a trapped animal has to gnaw off its own limb to escape the snare, or to wait for the hunter to return. Both options lead to a world of pain. In the days that follow, you do nothing. You are paralyzed by the sheer, terrifying weight of the decision. You continue your nightly routines, a hollow automaton moving through the motions of a life that no longer feels like your own. You paint your eyes, you drink the wine, you smile the smile, but inside a slow, quiet fire has been lit. It begins as a subtle warmth in your belly, a feeling that is not unpleasant at first, almost like the comforting heat of a warm stone, but this warmth is not comfort. It is the heat of creation, the metabolic fire of a new life taking hold. Then it begins to demand fuel. You feel a constant, gnawing hunger, a need that the small, delicate portions of food at the banquets can no longer satisfy. You spend your copper depends on extra bread and dates, eating them in the privacy of your room, feeling a strange mixture of shame and biological urgency. Then, the warmth intensifies. It is no longer a gentle heat, but a low-grade, persistent fever. It is not the raging fire of a true sickness, the kind that brings a priest-physician with his charts and his cooling herbs. This is a secret fever, a quiet, internal simmering that leaves your skin feeling flushed and your mind feeling dull and heavy. This internal heat is a constant drain on your energy. The profound weariness you felt before now deepens into a state of near-constant exhaustion. You feel as if your very life force is being siphoned away, drawn inward to fuel this secret project your body has undertaken. Walking to the marketplace feels like a monumental effort. Holding a conversation requires a level of concentration that leaves you dizzy. You look at your own reflection in the polished bronze, and the woman who stares back at you is a stranger. Her eyes, even ringed with kohl, seem sunken and tired. There is a faint, almost imperceptible puffiness to her face, a blurring of the sharp lines you have always taken for granted. Your body, your greatest asset, the tool you have so carefully maintained, is beginning to betray you in subtle, insidious ways. It is slowly being stolen from you, reshaped by a will that is not your own. This is not a sickness that can be named. The priest-physicians have names for the red ache of fever, the mind's reign a cold, and the gods' curse a plague. But there is no name for this slow, draining internal fire, because in your world, it is not considered a sickness at all. It is the healthy, normal, celebrated state of a woman's body doing what the gods intended. To call it a sickness would be a heresy. And yet, you know with a terrifying certainty that if it is allowed to continue, it will be the end of you. One night, at a banquet, a man you have known for years, a boisterous captain of the Pharaoh's guard, looks at you with a concerned frown. "Are you unwell?" he asks, his voice surprisingly gentle. You have lost your fire. Your spirit seems banked. You force a laugh and tell him you are simply tired, but his words echo in your soul. He is right. Your fire, your energy, your very essence is being consumed, turned into ash to warm a nascent life you cannot, must not, allow to flourish. Secret fever is burning you away from the inside out. The time for indecision is over. The hunter is coming, and you must choose the snare. The decision once made settles in your soul like a cold, smooth stone. The frantic, buzzing panic of the last few days has receded, replaced by a quiet, grim resolve. The question is no longer if, the question is now how, but before you can seek out the bitter herbs and the dangerous roots of Iset's whispers, there is one last, strange pilgrimage you must make. You cannot undertake this dark journey into your own body's wilderness without first speaking to the goddess who guards that very territory. You do not go to the grand temple complex. Its silent stone halls offered you only hollow proverbs. Instead, you walk to a small, humble shrine tucked away in a dusty corner of the artisan's quarter. It is little more than a niche in a mud brick wall, sheltered by a tattered linen awning. This is not a place for high priests of secret fears and desperate hopes. The air here smells of old incense, dust, and the faint, salty tang of 1,000 dried tears. Before you approach, you stop at a nearby stall where a man sells small, crude clay votives. You buy the cheapest one. He has a small, roughly shaped figurine of a standing woman, her hands placed on her belly. It is a prayer for fertility, a plea for a safe birth, an offering of hope. You hold the small, dusty object in your palm, its irony a heavy weight. Then you turn and enter the shrine's small circle of shade. Inside, the niche is crowded with the ghosts of countless prayers. Dozens of other small figurines are clustered at the feet of the central statue. There are clay models of swollen bellies, small stone carvings of infants, and faience amulets of frogs and fish, all left by women whose deepest desire is the very thing you are trying to escape, and presiding over it all is the goddess herself, Tawurti. She is a terrifying and beautiful paradox, a goddess made of the most powerful and feared creatures of your world. She has the head of a hippopotamus with its great, protective, maternal fury. She has the back and tail of a crocodile, the guardian of the river's secrets. She has the paws of a lioness, the fiercest hunter, and yet she stands on two human-like legs, her own belly swollen and pendulous with eternal pregnancy, her heavy breasts full. The protector of women in their most vulnerable moments, the divine midwife who frightens away the demons of miscarriage and stillbirth with her fearsome visage. You place your small, anonymous offering at her feet, a silent lie amongst all the honest trees. Then you look up into her carved stone face, her hippo's mouth open in a permanent, silent roar. You do not speak aloud. Your prayer is a silent scream in the hollow of your own heart. Thou great mother, protector of the newborn, turn your face from me. Guardian of the birthing bed, grant me an empty one. Divine midwife, help me to undo this work. It is a prayer of profound contradiction, an appeal to the goddess of life to aid you in a dance with death. You are not the first to stand here with such a conflicted heart. Future scholars will puzzle over this for centuries. They will find prayers and spells that invoke Tawurti not just for a safe birth, but for a safe passage through all female troubles. The debate will be endless when a woman in your position prayed to Tawurti. Was she asking for forgiveness? Was she asking the goddess to protect her from the dangerous procedure itself, a plea to survive the remedy even if the new life did not? Or was their understanding more nuanced than that? A belief that Torwati was the goddess of the entire mysterious cycle of a woman's body, from fertility to barrenness and back again. You have no answers. You only have your desperate, paradoxical hope. You hope that this great composite beast of a goddess, who understands the fierce, brutal, and bloody business of birth, will also understand the fierce, brutal, and bloody business of survival. You stay for a few more moments in the shrine's quiet, heavy atmosphere. You feel a strange sense of peace settle over you. You have made your appeal. You have acknowledged the great power whose laws you are about to break. Now, you can proceed. You leave the shrine, stepping back out into the bright, indifferent sun, your heart no longer frantic, but cold and clear and ready for the grim transactions to come. You return to your room not with the wild-eyed panic of a cornered animal, but with the quiet, chilling calm of a scribe about to tally a final account. The prayer to Torwati was a necessary release, a tipping of the hat to the great, unknowable powers that govern the female body. But the gods do not pay your rent. The gods do not fill your grain jar. That is a task for copper-depends, and copper-depends are a matter of simple, brutal arithmetic. You sit on your reed mat, the last rays of the setting sun slanting through the doorway, painting a warm, golden rectangle on the opposite wall. You do not light your lamp. You prefer the gathering shadows. In your mind, you lay out the beads of an invisible abacus, the same kind you have seen the scribes use to calculate the pharaoh's grained axes. Your calculations, however, are for a much smaller kingdom, the fragile teetering empire of your own life. The first calculation is your expenses. There is the rent for this room, a small but non-negotiable sum paid to a grumpy landlord each month. There is the cost of emmer, wheat and barley from the market, the foundational box of your diet. There is oil for your lamp, without which your nights would be spent in darkness. There are the tools of your trade, the coal for your eyes, the ochre for your trade, the coal for your eyes, the ochre for your lips, the ochre for your lips, the fine linen that must be replaced when it wears thin, invisible numbers. The second calculation is your income. It is not a predictable harvest. It is a scattered, unpredictable collection of copper pieces, earned one night at a time. Some weeks are good, filled with banquets and generous men. Other weeks are lean, the nights quiet, the city's wealthy occupied with a religious festival or a royal procession. You calculate the average, a number that always seems smaller than you remember it being. Now you place the two columns side by side. On a good month, the income column is slightly taller than the expense column. The difference is the sliver of security. You live on a few extra measures of grain, a small indulgence like a piece of fruit. Or if you are very lucky, a new pair of sandals. On a bad month, the columns are equal, or worse. The expenses loom larger, and you must make hard choices. Less oil for the lamp. Watered down beer. This is the cold, hard calculus of your survival. It is a delicate, precarious balance, a tightrope you walk every single day. And now, into this finely balanced equation, you must add a new, catastrophic variable, a child. You begin a third column in your mind. First, you subtract from your income. Within a few months, your changing body will make you unwelcome at the banquets. Your income will drop to zero. Then, you add to your expenses. A midwife will demand payment. You will need more food, not less. You will need linen for swaddling. The numbers in the expense column begin to swell, becoming a monstrous, terrifying tower. You project the future based on this new, impossible math. The small savings of copper you keep hidden in your chest will vanish in a month, maybe two. You will be unable to pay your rent. You will be forced to leave this small, private room for a crowded, filthy hovel in the poorest part of the city, a place where sickness spreads like fire. You will be hungry. And then the child will arrive, a screaming, helpless mouth that needs to be fed. What then? What is the final sum of this equation? You have seen it on the streets. You have seen the women with hollow eyes and listless babies in their arms, sitting in the dust by the temple gates, their hands outstretched, begging for a crust of bread. A life of shame, of destitution, of slow starvation for two people instead of one. Historians will debate for centuries what, if any social safety nets existed, Were there temple-run charities, state-supported orphanages? From where you sit, in the grim reality of your life, the answer is no. You have never seen such a thing. Every family is an island, and if you have no family, you are simply adrift in a merciless sea. And this is where the calculation becomes something else entirely. The act you are contemplating, the one that involves the bitter root in the river of blood, is not an act of cruelty. You see it now with a chilling clarity. It is an act of mercy. To bring a child into a life of such certain suffering, to watch it cry from hunger, to see its small body waste away, that is the true cruelty. The choice you are making is not between a life and a death. It is between one death now, a secret and unseen event, and a slow, public, agonizing death later. The sun has completely set. Your room is dark. The abacus in your mind is still. The numbers have been tallied. The grim logic is undeniable. This is not about what the gods want. It is about what the numbers demand. You have balanced the books of your life, and you have found the only possible solution that does not end in utter ruin. The cold logic of your mental abacus provides no comfort, only a grim sense of direction. You have tallied the cost of life and found it to be too high. Now you must pay the price for its opposite. To do that, you need to acquire the ingredients for the final, most dangerous recipes that whisper to you the bitter root from the high desert. This is not something you can buy in the open marketplace, next to the cheerful honey seller or the spice merchant. This is a substance that lives in the shadows. Traded in whispers, its very existence a secret acknowledged only by women in the deepest circles of desperation. Iset had given you a name and a place. A woman who lived on the very edge of the city, where the fertile black land of the Nile Valley gives way to the red, lifeless sands of the desert. She is a Rakhet, a wise woman, but her wisdom is of a different, darker sort than the priest-physicians. They serve the gods of the great temples. She serves the smaller, more personal gods of pain and survival. You walk there as the sun begins to set, the long shadows of the city stretching out behind you like grasping fingers. The neighborhood is poor, a labyrinth of crumbling mud brick walls and narrow, refuse-strewn alleys. The air smells of charcoal, smoke, and poverty. You find the house. It is no different from the others, except for a single, faded blue line painted above the door, a ward against evil spirits that seems to have given up long ago. You knock. The door opens a crack, and a pair of dark, suspicious eyes peer out. You give the name as it told you to, and the door swings open. The woman who stands there is not old and wizened. She is of middle age, with a hard, unreadable face and hands stained with the juices of 100 different herbs. Her room is small and smoky, filled with the overwhelming scent of dried plants, some sweet, some pungent, some deeply unpleasant. Bundles of them hang from the rafters like sleeping bats. She does not ask you what you want, she knows. Women do not come to her for a poultice to soothe a burn. They come for one of two things: a potion to make a man fall in love, or a potion to undo the consequences of that love. Your face, she can see, is not the face of a woman in search of romance. She gestures for you to wait, and disappears behind a curtain. While you stand in the smoky dimness, another woman emerges from the shadows in the corner of the room. She is weeping, her body racked with silent, shuddering sobs. An older woman, perhaps her mother, is with her, trying to offer comfort, stroking her hair and murmuring soft, useless words. Through the younger woman's gasping sobs, you piece together the reason for her grief. She is telling a story. Her sister, she says, was from a village just downriver. She had been in your exact position. She had come to this very room, to this very woman, and she had bought the very same bitter root you are here to buy. She had gone home and brewed the tea, just as she was instructed, and it had worked. Oh, the weeping woman says, her voice breaking, the gods know it had worked. The story spills out in a torrent of whispered, horrified details. The cramping had begun within an hour, a fist of hot iron, just as Azet had described. The sister had writhed on her mat, biting her lips to keep from screaming, for a scream would bring neighbors' questions, discovery. Then the bleeding had started. It was not a flow, the woman says, but a flood. It had soaked her clothes, and it had not stopped. They had tried to staunch it with wards of linen, but it was like trying to stop the Nile itself. They had prayed to every god they knew, but the floodgates had been opened, and they would not close. The sister had grown weaker, her skin pale and clammy, her voice a faint whisper. She died just before the dawn, not in the sanitized, ritual-filled manner of a noble's passing, but in a small, dark room, alone with her mother and her terror. The final, most chilling part of the story comes from the older woman. She whispers that the village priest to perform the full rites of burial. There was a debate, a quiet, ugly argument. Was the sister a victim of a terrible accident, or was she a sinner, a woman who had devoured her own child, whose heart would be so heavy with this crime that the great devourer MMIT would certainly consume it at the final judgment? Historians in the future will argue this very point, debating whether a woman who died this way was shunned in the afterlife as well as this one, her BA uncon able to reunite. In the end, the sister's burial was a hasty, fearful affair, her journey to the field of reeds uncertain. You stand there frozen listening to this cautionary tale. It is a ghost story told in the present tense. This is the reality that the clinical, detached words of the papyr's scroll never mentioned. This is the risk, laid bare in all its bloody, terrifying detail. The wise woman returns, a small, gnarled root in her hand. She has heard the story too. Her face shows no emotion. She holds out the root to you. The weeping woman looks up and sees you, and her eyes, for a moment, are filled with a look of horrified pity. She sees you as the next ghost in the story. You take the root. Your hand does not tremble. The story has not changed your mind. It has only confirmed what you already knew. This is not medicine, it is a weapon, and you are about to turn it on yourself. You walk away from the wise woman's smoky hut, the gnarled root clutched tightly in your palm. It feels dry and light, impossibly small for the great and terrible power it is said to contain. The story as a sister from the downriver village walks with you, a cold, invisible companion. Every step you take away from that dark doorway is a step closer to a shared destiny. You could be her. You could be the next ghost in the next cautionary tale whispered by a weeping woman in a smoky room. Your feet do not falter as you navigate the labyrinth of darkening alleys back toward the heart of the city. Your mind, strangely calm now, begins to turn over a question. It is a question you have touched upon before, but which now has a terrifying, immediate relevance. What is this thing you are about to do? Is it an act of medicine or an act of magic? You think of the priest-physicians in the temple with their clean hands and their sacred papyrus scrolls. You imagine them treating a festering wound. They would wash it, apply a poultice of honey and herbs, and then, most importantly, they would recite a long and complicated incantation and appeal to Sekhmet or Isis to drive out the demons of sickness. To them, the herb and the incantation are inseparable. The physical remedy creates a welcoming space for the divine magic to do its work. Then you think of the root in your hand. Perhaps it is the same. Perhaps it is a kind of science discovered through generations of careful, desperate observation. A woman, long ago, ate this root by accident and lost a pregnancy she desperately wanted. The story was passed down, a piece of dangerous knowledge. Others tried it, refining the dosage, learning that a piece the size of a thumbnail was a remedy, while a piece the size of a thumb was a fatal poison. This is the foundation of all medicine, is it not? A slow, painful accumulation of knowledge about the secret powers hidden inside the green and growing things of the world. Many modern drugs, in a future you will never see, will be derived from the very same alkaloids found in the plants of your desert, their efficacy explained by a science you cannot imagine. From this perspective, the root is not a curse. It is simply a tool, a key to unlock a biological process. But as you hold it, this explanation feels thin, incomplete. It does not account for the sheer, violent power you are about to unleash. You live in a world governed by the fundamental, magical energy that the gods used to create the universe itself. And lives in everything, in a spoken word, in a carved amulet, and most certainly in a plant, the power of life and death. So you consider the other possibility. The root is not medicine. It is a spirit, a dry, angry, desert spirit. By boiling it, by drinking it, you are not ingesting a chemical. You are inviting this spirit into your body. The cramps, the bleeding, they are not side effects. They are the physical manifestation of a great battle taking place inside you, as this fierce desert spirit goes to war against the nascent spirit of new life. You are turning your own body into a battlefield, hoping that the warrior you have summoned is strong enough to win, but not so strong that it destroys the field itself. And what of the pain? The priest-physicians have a concept for it. They believe that all sickness comes from we do a kind of morbid principle, a pain substance that can travel through the body's channels, spreading disease and putrefaction. It is a fascinating and somewhat disgusting theory, one that scholars will debate for ages. Perhaps the violent, gut-wrenching process you are about to endure is not just a side effect of the poison. Perhaps the root's magic works by creating a storm so powerful that it physically scours the we-do of this unwanted life from your body, expelling it in a torrent of blood and pain. The agony is not the price of the cure. The agony is the cure. Historians will forever be locked in this debate. Were your people pragmatic observers of the natural world, whose science was simply cloaked in the only language they had, the language of magic, or were they true mystics, for whom a plant spirit was far more real and relevant than its physical properties? You, standing at the precipice, feel the truth of both. The root is a prayer, it is a chemical reaction, and it is a prayer. It is a chemical reaction, and it is a spiritual war, inseparable fusion of the two. You finally arrive at your own door. The debate is over. You have the root, you have the knowledge, and you have no other choice. The door to your room closes with a soft, final sound. It seals you in with your decision. The time for walking, for thinking, for debating the fine line between magic and medicine is over. The root is in your hand. The night is before you. There is nothing left but the act itself. You move with a slow, dreamlike efficiency. You do not light your main lamp, which would feel too bright, cheerful. Instead, you light a single, tiny saucer lamp, the kind used for bedside tables, which casts a small, flickering circle of light and leaves the corners of your room in deep shadow. In this dim, sacred space, you perform the final, simple preparations. You fill a small clay cooking pot with water from your jug. You take a sharp flint knife, the kind you use for cutting vegetables, and you carefully, precisely, shave a small piece from the gnarled desert root, a piece the size of your thumbnail, just as the wise woman instructed. You drop the shaving into the water. It floats for a moment, a pale, twisted thing, before sinking into the darkness. You place the pot on a small brazier, a clay bowl filled with glowing charcoal embers. And then you wait. The room is silent except for the soft, whispering hiss of the water as it begins to warm. Use it on your reed mat, your arms wrapped around your knees, and you watch the pot as if it contains the entire world. Soon a thin wisp of steam rises, carrying with it a bitter, medicinal smell, the scent of the dry, angry desert. Small bubbles begin to form at the edges of the pot, and the water slowly turns a pale, brownish color, the color of weak beer. The tea is brewing, the poison is steeping. The prayer is being prepared. When it is ready, you pour the steaming liquid into a simple clay cup. You hold it in both hands, the warmth seeping into your cold fingers. This is the moment. This is the precipice. You think of the sister from the downriver village. You think of her terror, of the flood that could not be stopped. You think of your own future, of the slow, grinding poverty and shame that awaits you if you do not do this. You weigh one death against another, and you lift the cup to your lips. The taste is vile. It is intensely bitter, an acrid, earthy flavor that coats your tongue and makes your throat constrict. It is the taste of poison. You force yourself to drink it all, every last drop, your body rebelling with every swallow. When the cup is empty, you set it down. It is done. The desert spirit has been invited in. The battle has been declared. You lie down on your mat, pulling a linen sheet over you, though you are not cold. You are simply preparing. The waiting is different this time. It is not the long, anxious wandering of the last few weeks. It is the tense, certain waiting for an inevitable explosion. You lie in the flickering darkness, listening to the sound of your own breathing, feeling the beat of your own heart. For a long time, there is nothing. A part of your mind, a foolish, hopeful part, begins to wonder if it was a lie, if the root has no power. And then it begins. A low, dull ache deep in your belly, a small, twisting knot. You recognize it. It is the familiar discomfort of a normal monthly cycle, and for a fleeting, insane moment, you feel a wave of relief. But this is not normal. The ache does not subside. It grows. It sharpens. The knot of discomfort tightens into a fist of pain, angry animal clawing at you from the inside. Just when you think you cannot bear it, the fist unclenches, and a wave of blessed, temporary relief washes over you. You lie there, panting, your body slick with sweat. But you know it is not over. It is just the first wave. Soon, another one comes, stronger this time, fiercer. The cycle repeats, over and over, a relentless, brutal tide of agony and release. And then you feel a warm, wet trickling sensation between your legs. You know what it is. The floodgates are opening. The river of blood has begun its course. The cycle of your life, the one that had been so ominously paused, has been restarted with a terrible, violent vengeance. You do not know if this is the beginning of your salvation or the beginning of your end. You only know that the choice has been made, the price is being paid, and the night is very, very long. The unchanging cycle of pain and release repeats, a grim and brutal certainty in a life that has been anything but. The long night finally bleeds into a grey, exhausted dawn. The lamps puttered out hours ago. The brutal, rhythmic waves of pain have subsided, leaving behind a deep, hollow ache and a profound, bone-deep weariness that feels as if it has settled into your very soul. You lie on your mat, a survivor on a battlefield of your own making. The evidence of the night's violent war is all around you, in the stained linen and the metallic scent of blood that hangs heavy in the still air. But you are alive. The flood came, and you did not get swept away. The desert spirit did its work, and then, mercifully, it departed. You move slowly, every muscle in your body protesting. The simple act of sitting up is a monumental effort. You feel empty, hollowed out. It is more than a physical sensation. It is as if a part of your spirit, your core, has been scoured away along with the unwanted life. You have done a terrible, necessary thing, and the cost of it is written in this feeling of ghostly emptiness. You spend the day in a state of quiet recovery. You clean your room, your movements slow and deliberate, washing the linens in a basin of water that quickly turns a murky red. You perform these mundane, necessary tasks with a sense of detachment, as if you are watching someone else's hands do the work. The sun climbs high in the sky, flooding the world outside with its brilliant, cheerful light, but inside your small room, a permanent twilight seems to have settled. In the afternoon, as it comes to you. She does not knock. She does not knock. She simply pushes the curtain aside and enters, her old eyes taking in the single knowing glance. She sees your pale face, the way you move with a careful, pained stiffness, the faint smell of blood that still lingers in the air. She carries a small clay pot. She does not ask what happened. She does not offer words of comfort or of judgment. She simply hands you the pot. Inside is a thick, nourishing stew of lentils and barley, still warm. Eat, she says, her voice a quiet command. You must rebuild. This simple act of kindness, this wordless acknowledgement of your shared, terrible knowledge, is almost your undoing. Your carefully constructed wall of numb detachment begins to crumble. You take the pot, and your hands tremble. You eat the stew, and with each spoonful, you feel a little of your strength. Your connection to the world of the living begin to return. As you eat, Izette sits with you in the quiet of your room. She tells you a story, not of a woman who died, but of one who lived. She speaks of her own sister, long ago, who had faced the same choice you just faced, who had endured the same long, terrible night. Her sister had survived. She had gone on to live a long life, to marry a kind man, a widower, and to raise his children as her own. The body heals, Izette says, her voice a dry rustle. The scars are not on the skin. They are on the inside, where no one can see them. Her words are a profound and devastating truth. You will recover from this. The ache in your belly will fade. Your strength will return. You will, in time, be able to go back to your life, to the banquets and the copper dibbens. You will paint your eyes with coal, and no one will know the war that was fought and won within the prison of your body. But you will know. You will carry the memory of this night forever. It will be a silent, invisible scar on your soul. It will be there in the moments of quiet, in the deep of the night when you are alone with your thoughts. It will be a ghost that sits with you, a constant reminder of the brutal calculus of your survival, of the terrible price you paid to remain free. Historians and archaeologists, in their distant future, will find the bodies of women from your time. They will analyze their bones, looking for signs of disease, of childbirth, of trauma. But they will never see the evidence of this kind of wound. It is a scar that leaves no mark on the bone, no trace on the papiers. It is a wound that is carried only in the memory, a silent, personal history written in a language that no one else can ever read. You are free, but you will never ever be the same. A week passes. The river of blood has slowed to a trickle and finally ceased. The deep hollow ache in your belly has softened into a tender memory of pain. Your strength, slowly, stubbornly, has begun to return, a small green seedling pushing its way through scorched earth. You have been rebuilding, as is at commanded, eating the simple, nourishing food that your small store of copper can buy. You have not left your room. You have existed in a quiet, grey limbo, a space between the world of the dead and the world of the living. But you cannot stay here forever. The world outside, with its demands and its rhythms, has not paused for your private war. Your grain jar is getting low. Your oil is almost gone. The cold, hard calculus of survival is beginning to reassert itself. And so on the morning of the 8th day, you wash your face and your body with cool water, a ritual of purification. You take out your stone palette and your pot of coal. Your hand is steady as you paint the familiar dark, protective lines around your eyes. It is the first time you have done it since that long night. It feels different. It is no longer just a mask for the world. It is armor for yourself. You do not go down into the courtyard. Instead, you climb the stairs to the rooftop, the same rooftop where this story began. The air is cool and still, carrying the clean, damp scent of the pre-dawn river. The city below is dark and silent, a sleeping beast. You are the only one awake. You walk to the eastern edge of the roof and you wait. Slowly, the blackness on the horizon begins to soften, turning a deep, bruised purple. A single, pale line of rose gold appears, as if a scribe has drawn a clean, straight line across the bottom of the sky. The light grows, deepens, washes upward, chasing the stars from the sky. And then, the top edge of the sun's disk appears over the eastern hills, a blinding sliver of pure, molten gold. Ra, the sun god, is victorious once again in his nightly battle against the serpent of chaos, Apep. He begins his slow, majestic journey across the sky. As the light floods the world, the city below begins to stir. You are high enough to see over the nearby walls, to look toward the workers' village, that special, organized town where the artisans who build and decorate the hidden tombs of the pharaohs live. Men, their tools in their hands, emerge from their small houses, their long shadows stretching before them. They are the stone cutters, the plasters, the scribes, and the painters who create the magnificent, secret afterlife for the kings and queens. They are heading west toward the ferry that will take them across the river to the Valley of the Kings, the land of the dead, where they will spend their day working in the service of eternity. You watch them go, a quiet army of creators marching off to their daily work. It's a strange and fascinating community, one that historians will study with intense focus, for they are one of the few groups of common people who will leave behind a rich written record of their lives. They even keep attendance sheets. It's a bit of a historical marvel that we know about the time they all put down their tools and refused to work the first recorded labor strike in history, all because their monthly payment of grain was late. It's a small, comforting thought even here, at the foot of the gods, a man could stand up and say no. I have earned my pay. It was a tiny fight for dignity, for the acknowledgement of his own worth. You see the women of that village emerge now, their own day's work beginning. They are lighting cooking fires, heading to the well, beginning the endless, rhythmic work of grinding grain. It is a world of relentless, reassuring normalcy. And from your vast sense of detachment, you've had a profound sense of detachment. You have been to the underworld and back, in your own way. You have faced your own apex in the darkness of your room, and somehow, you have been reborn into the morning light, or on the inside. No one in that bustling village knows your story. No one in this entire, sprawling city knows. This is your new reality. You are a woman with a secret history, a silent knowledge that sets you apart. The papyrus scroll the scribe learned you as a part of that. Some academics in the future will argue, but literacy among women of your class was almost non-existent. Others will point to small scraps of evidence, letters and notes, that suggest it was rare, but not impossible. Your ability to read was your key, the thing that allowed you to unlock a knowledge beyond courtyard whispers. It was a source of power, and it has saved you. The sun is fully risen now, warm on your face. A new day has begun. It will bring what it brings. The quiet resilience you feel is not happiness. It is not even hope. It is something simpler, and perhaps stronger. It is the simple, stubborn fact of your own survival. You take a deep breath of the morning air. It is time to go down and face the day. And now as the story comes to its quiet end, you might feel the narrative itself begin to dissolve like a dream that is slowly fading upon waking, or perhaps like a dream you are only just beginning to enter. There is no need to hold on to the details, to the names or the places or the ancient troubles. They were just soft stepping stones leading you away from the shore of the waking world and into the calm, still waters of your own deep rest. You can let the image of the sun rising over the ancient city just drift away, replaced by the gentle darkness behind your own eyelids. The worries of a life lived thousands of years ago can melt away, and perhaps they can take some of your own worries with them, leaving behind only a sense of peace, a sense of quiet distance from the world of doing and a gentle surrender to the world of being. Our journey together tonight ends here in this quiet place. Should you need another tale to accompany you further into rest, my library of stories is always open for you. May your dreams be kind. Good night.